Welcome to Power Talks with Santosa. Today we have with us a very special guest, the Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation, Honorable Mrs. Hisila Yami. The birthplace of Lord Buddha and Goddess Sita, the land of Mount Everest, Himalayan range that hosts 8 out of 10 world's highest peaks, the second largest water resources in the world, the highest forest reserves, over 700 medicinal plants, and thousands species of flora and fauna, from flatland Tarai to green hills, snow-capped mountains. Nepal is blessed with the world's richest resource and beauty to make it a world-class destination for tourism. Honorable Minister, you have recently launched Nepal Tourism Year 2011. What is this uniqueness and specialty of this project?
Well, when you talk about uniqueness, I think you forgot to add one more thing. Is that recently there was this announcement made at global level that Brazil and Nepal are the 2 most adventure tourism destinations that people should visit. So from that point of view, one more item in the tourism sector has been added, and that is adventure tourism. So from that point of view also, I would like to add that 2011 Nepal Tourism Year, it is very important to know the context under which this is taking place, because earlier in 1998, when Visit Nepal Year was being in the agenda, that time the state, the whole Nepal was under monolithic unitary state under the monarchical king. But today we are flourishing under the very fact that we are democratic, going to federalism, and of course now it is a republic state. So from that point of view, the energy, the talent, the creativity of the people, which has been suppressed so far by the feudal structure, is now being unleashed. This country has been known as biodiverse, but people don't know that ethnically we are a very rich country. So from that point of view, 2011 is going to be much more richer event than...
Can I say that one of the specialty of 2011 project is that the conflict that we have, the new conflict we have about the problems with ethnicity, is itself is going to be converted into the positive aspect?
Yes, it should, because right now all the so-called conflict is in fact it's an initial stage of their identity. So it needs to be settled politically.
How hopeful are you that 2011 project will be successful, that it will work?
Yes, that's exactly. We are working very hard for it. In fact, we recently formed 14 committees and 5 regional committees. So from that point of view, this year is going to be much more enriching experience for the tourists.
Let's look at the examples from the past. In 1960s, the then Royal Nepal Airlines and Thai Airlines were launched almost at the same time. In 5 decades down the lane, Thai Airlines is one of the world's leading airline company, whereas now the Nepal Airlines Corporation is at the verge of collapse. Why is it so? Why is it that we always fail after launching successfully an international venture?
I think you should see that tourism is also related with the economic development of that country, you see. So from that point of view, I think Thailand is, economically it's much at a better state than Nepal. And as I say, Nepal is, it went through 240 years of hardcore monarchical rule, where the creativity, the action, and the competence of the people were always discouraged. And that's why, with this aspiration, with the new political awakening, we are embarking upon economic revolution, we are saying. Okay, so from that point of view, now you should see that Nepal Airlines, which had been having a cancerous kind of disease of always being mired with some corruption case or the other, this time we are buying new airplanes, 2 airplanes, for which the government is willing to stay as a guarantee, which is a very positive message for the tourism industry. So we are trying to make it as transparent as possible, and I'm trying to give some kind of emphasis to its regularity, and already the regularity of NEC is now picking up.
That's really encouraging. At the same time, the entire world saw something really terrible in terms of economy, that is the global economic crisis. And that certainly is going to block a lot of Western tourist inflow into Nepal. However, there's a great prospect considering the population in India and China, and the two large countries being our neighbors, including South Asia as well. Are you looking into any prospects into bringing in tourists from the South Asia and neighboring countries?
That's a very good question. In fact, we had long thought about this idea before even the recession started. On the north we have China, and the south we have India. Both are, and in fact, doing very well economically. So from that point of view, already we feel that China is now looking more towards Buddhism as one aspect of religious tourism, and India, of course, historically it has always been the Hindu aspect of it. So whenever people say touristic destination, it's always Himalaya or mountains.
Right.
Nowhere you see the Tarai picture, and that's one of the reasons why the Taraians are in a movement.
Yes.
They are saying that they need to be recognized. So we are giving quite emphasis to that also. For the first time, from the ministerial level, the Nepal Airlines Corporation and the private sector operators and Han Hotel Association are coming under one package. So already we have started this process, and similarly with China also we are having very good rapport with them. They are willing to give us free visa, and we are working on how we can interact because the people-to-people relation between Nepal and China has to go in par with people-to-people relation between Nepal and India. You see.
Last week I had the Sri Lankan ambassador on the show, and he was very happy about the deal that you did with the direct airlines of Sri Lanka coming into Nepal. It's encouraging that you have plans for combining India's and Nepal tourism together.
And both actually, in fact, with China also we would like to
with China as
include
well.
them. Yeah.
And in early 2000, when Indian government, the Ministry of Tourism launched Incredible India project. Now they have about 5 million visitors from around the world every year. And with just one stop, single flight and short flight from India to Nepal, I mean, will there be any joint ventures, like a strong joint ventures of India and Nepal working together in the tourism sector to see how we can draw some of those tourists to Nepal as well? Because it will be cost effective for the tourist, and both the countries will benefit.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the Incredible India is a very successful venture. In fact, they had a massive campaign, which was itself very showing the rich diversities and all that. We already, we get the benefit out of it in the terms of spillover that comes in. In fact, I am looking forward for ASA, Air Service Agreement with India. I talked to the ambassador of India, Mr. Sood, and then he was very encouraging that we should have a regional, we should have a cross-border, flight, so that they can also take benefit, we can also take benefit. So we would like to share, because their cultural affinity also between the two countries, people-to-people relation is very nice.
As we all know, Nepal is blessed with amazing landscape and natural beauty, and we are a perfect destination for tourism. Yet we lack the physical infrastructures like the world-class international airport, 5-star service providing hotels, easy and safe accessibility to the tourist destinations. I mean, do you have any plans to build up on that and create a high-end tourism in Nepal?
Yeah, in fact, I would like to emphasize that this government has been very, very positive about tourism. Already in its economic agenda, tourism stands third after water resources. You must also know that we are soon having second international airport in the in Nisgar area, and then we are looking forward to see the regional airport coming in Pokhara, for which I have been visiting Pokhara often, and we have another coming in Lumbini area, Bhairava.
So we'll be seeing more international airports.
Yes, and then more accessibility, you can say.
We'll continue with our conversation after a short break.
Sure, certainly.
Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Power Talks with Santosa. We are in conversation with the Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation, Honorable Mrs. Hisila Yami. Honorable Minister, during the 10-year-long revolution, you lived the life of a mother of a school-going daughter, the wife of the leading rebel thinker, and a forefront revolutionary yourself, and that too a woman. How was life for you then?
It's very enriching in the sense that while we were at war during 10 years of a People's War, I managed to kind of empower my daughter through email, through writing letters, and many times I always left space for my for her father to write something whenever we are together, because it was very important that she gets a right message from both of us. And usually, as you know, fathers have less time for the children. I made it a point that some space is always left for him to write back to the daughter, who is always not with us, many times not with us. And then being a wife of a senior leader, and myself being a politician also, many times the spillover effect of two-line struggle between the top leaders also gets spilled over to me, So from that point of view also, it was very interesting, how it affects sometimes positively and sometimes negatively, and how you deal with it. In one way, people may think that I'm very lucky, but people should also know that there are many restrictions that are put on me because I'm in that kind of a position, you see.
Now you're in the government yourself. Back then, the then government had placed a price on your head. I mean, how was that feeling like, having a price on your head?
That's exactly. I mean, it's very interesting because now when I travel in my car, at one end, my driver is actually a PLA member himself, who's in fact handicapped by a bomb explosion in his feet. So at one end he's there, at the other end we have got Nepali army. So sometimes I just, and the way they talk with each other, because at the ground level, there is a lot of similarity in terms of problem, in terms of aspirations, in terms of feelings and all that. If I go back to, what we did, 10 years back, 10 years of People's War, I think what we did was, we are very political, we were very sure, we were very motivated to end this 240 years of monarchical state. We are equally committed to the peace process, because now it is the period for consolidating what we have raised, the issues, and that is very necessary for tourism, you see, because tourism and peace process are complementary.
Yes. It was your father, Mr. Dharmaratna Yami, who inspired you to think differently, to be a rebel, or to think of leadership. What is one important lesson or advice you took from him?
He was also a minister once upon a time. But, one thing about him was that he was very bold. In fact, that boldness was not very well accepted. What I have gained from him is that boldness, that boldness of saying yes and no and all that. He was, actually, you must know that he was a poet, and he was also very much aware of his Newari identity. And although he had no formal education, but he's blessed with nearly more than 30 books that he's written, and very enriching literature that he's left,
You're an avid poet. I recently got to read one of your poetry called Diversity is Destiny, and in fact you wrote in the flight to Berlin, when you went to promote Nepal tourism year 2011. Now, when do you get time for literature?
Unfortunately, now I don't even get the time, because in fact I took advantage of my flight time, you see. Actually, I got this idea much before itself, when I was flying in ultralight aircraft, when I myself felt being heavenly above and seeing, and I already felt that, you see, we already have Switzerland in the air, but we need to have it on the ground.
And as a forefront women leader, who has led revolution, who is in the government right now, with the leading party, who's won the election, the women population in Nepal has a lot of expectations from you. When we look at the remote areas, we see a lot of women are beaten up by their drunken husbands. Alcoholism contributes to a great deal to domestic violence, where children and women are beaten up. Will you address this serious issue as well through your government?
Yes, certainly. In fact, just recently there was an article saying that women have started asserting themselves now. There have been cases of divorce also increasing. This came in the news. Because, you see, the very fact that People's War brought women into forefront. In fact, one of the identity of People's War was women coming into forefront. So women are really now vocal. So, and then we feel that in order to sustain tourism, we must go to villages, and villages in fact being run by the women. So they need to be taken into consideration.
When we look at some headlines in the newspaper, we see some of the youth wings attached to your party, especially the YCL and some trade unions and student wings, contributing to certain human rights violations or causing of strikes, which does not help the tourism. Why don't we utilize the young enthusiasm and energy into something constructive, like conservation of the wildlife and forest which will contribute to tourism?
That's a very good question. You must understand that it's very important to note that our youth being, who's willing, who's in fact now transforming themselves into now developmental workers, are being instigated by different political groups. Those retrogressive forces are trying to instigate the youth forces within our party, by doing all kinds of disturbances, and we are forced to retaliate. And in question of retaliating, they are being very, the media to some extent, as particularly the main medias, they are highlighting more on the actions of the youth forces of our party rather than those instigating youths in those parties who are not liking this changed perspective. Time and again, I feel sorry that certain medias are projecting us as demons still. And on the long run, it is going to harm them more than us. Let me tell you.
Where is the solution? Because it won't help tourism.
Yes,
if this continues.
exactly. The solution is that they should give a correct picture of where Nepal is and what we are.
You were a lecturer at a university, then you transformed yourself into a rebel, and now you are a politician and in the government. Which one of this life have you loved to live?
Actually, often I have really thought, now after going through People's War and after being now a government, the minister twice, sometimes I just think, what would it be like, going back to teaching? How would I teach the same subject, And similarly, what would it be like sometimes I even think, if situation turns such a case that I again have to be a rebel, then how would I become again a rebel? In what way? And that all that kind of things. But overall, I feel that it's an overall very dialectical, enriching experience. Now, being in a government right now as a minister, so I think I would say, in totality, being a politician is very important because you get the holistic picture. And I sometimes feel, this is a message to even first world people, particularly the youth, who think that being politician is being dirty and it's a dirty game. I would just say that you're cheating yourself by doing that. So from that point of view, I would tell the youths of the world, particularly the first world, that you have to take interest in state affairs, because that is the only way now you can save the globe, you see, because now with the globalization, no country can remain separate. We are part of the whole world, and if any one country fails, it affects all the country, because globalization can bring prosperity to all or destruction to all.
We'll talk more about your works with the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation after a short break. Do stay with us. Welcome to Power Talks with Santosa. We are in conversation with the Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation, Honorable Mrs. Hisila Yami. Honorable Minister, Sir Edmund Hillary introduced Nepal and Himalayas in 1950s to the world. Despite half-century efforts of trying to promote the tourism sector of Nepal, we're still struggling. Why is it so?
I think it's very important to know that Hillary was indeed the person who introduced Himalaya and introduced the tourism potentiality in Nepal. But it's also important to note that he represents about nearly 20% of the tourists that come for hard trekking, you see, high mountain trekking. We have many, about 40% of the tourists come for holiday tourism. So from that point of view, it is important to diversify tourism, you see. And that's where our ministry is now trying to diversify. That's why we are bringing homestay. We are also emphasizing on the internal tourism, you see. Because now already we have festivities of, many ethnic groups themselves coming and celebrating tourism festivities. Ground level, you see, people are coming up to showcase their places. And in fact, most interesting aspect of it is that the FNCCI, the local FNCCI, the Chamber of Commerce at local level are in fact organizing such events. And that's why we are saying that economic revolution is the thing, because that will catalyze all other aspects, including tourism.
So how open is your ministry or the government towards foreign investments into the tourism sector in Nepal?
From that point of view, I mean, our ministry is one ministry where we have private-public partnership. In fact, that is the main component of the tourism sector, because we are just facilitating. In fact, most of the work is done by the private sector.
You recently traveled to Germany to promote Nepal Tourism Year 2011.
Yes.
What were the major achievements out of the trip?
I think the first thing is that people there were very curious to see this Maoist minister coming as a tourist minister, and their first question was that there should be a direct flight between Frankfurt and Kathmandu, because many times they have to come via Delhi or via Middle East, and then for them, that's very time consuming. So with the coming of new airplanes, we'll be concentrating on those areas.
You have talked about a lot of new ventures in the tourism sector, like sports tourism,
yes, adventure tourism
and rural tourism, which is very interesting to me.
Rural tourism especially.
And where do you see the market for these tourism sectors?
Well, I would just tell you an interesting event, because when I was in war, we had to travel through dense forest, and while traveling through while trekking through that time itself, I said, wow, this is such a lovely place to explore. In fact, this is what ecotourism is, with all the chirpings of new chirpings, and that's why our ministry is already having this neutral planet fund, where I have myself contributed 10,000 in that bank, so that whoever the tourists come, they plant trees. So we have this plantation of trees as a campaign going from the Nepal Tourism Board. So from that point of view, we are quite aware of aware of the capacity of our country to contribute to the world, in reducing the effect of global warming and reducing the pollution and all that.
And lastly, I would like to ask you, are you satisfied with the performance of your government overall?
Not particularly. I mean, we are trying hard to have our agenda. I mean, our agendas are fantastic, but it is being sabotaged here and there in the name of, as I told you, there's retrogressive forces who are, using all kinds of means to disrupt this effort. But having said that, we are very committed to it, and our ministry is very committed from that point of view. We are working very hard for it.
In that case, do you see that your government will sustain?
It should, because our sustainability is also dependent very much on the whole country's sustainability. Let me tell you this again, because it is we who brought this agenda, and we have a plan to solve this, we have a plan to save this country, especially at this historical juncture when both the countries, the neighboring countries, India and China, which has a great stake in the whole region, and because the region, South Asia and the whole Asian region is again dependent on the world, you see, because now Asia is the place where economic agenda is picking up. And when they are themselves wanting to see Nepal stable and prosperous, and we have that agenda, we feel that people are with us. Only few of the retrogressive forces are trying to create hindrance. We are trying to go ahead with our economic agenda despite all these obstacles, knowing that this historical juncture, if we miss the bus, then not only we miss the bus, but the country will also miss the bus.
Let's hope that we reach a logical conclusion of the peace process and drafting of constitution.
Yes, it's very important, because this logical conclusion will have a spillover effect also on the neighboring giant Asian countries, and if giant Asian countries are stable, it will have a spillover over all the world. So whole the world can take a good inspiration from the peace process in Nepal.
So I would want to be very hopeful that the people's involvement, and then somewhere a harmonical approach from all political parties brings peace to our country.
Certainly.
And we also see a sound tourism in Nepal.
Thank you.
With this hope that Nepal is able to achieve the goal of becoming one of the world's high-end tourist destinations in the world, I wish you good luck and goodbye.